Hi everybody, Adrian Plus here,
Yes, and Bridget, hello.
and this is number 51 in Sounding the Shallows.
It is, and it's actually a rather odd one, isn't it? Because for the first time we are facing what everybody's rambling on about the new normal means, because this is the first time that we won't be together at the end of the week to do this.
That's right, I shall be away working, and so we're recording today for Friday, next Friday, which feels a bit strange.
It does.
Really.
Well, I've still got Gracie recovering, so I have to stay at home. But I think we're both hoping that nothing too drastic happens.
Yeah.
If you remember, Adrian, some time ago we talked about our anxiety of the lines in the communion we do saying yes to risky living. Well, I'm
That's
really
right,
not saying yes to risky living at all this week.
No.
I want a nice, safe week.
Well, I mean, in terms of our recording, we do anyway, but I know when we used to do a little epilogue programme, didn't we?
It was about 40 years ago that we started doing it, and we did it for a few years, didn't we?
Company,
TBS,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
And very exciting for us then, because we'd never really done anything like it. But and didn't we record a sort of vague disaster program in case anything cropped up?
Well, we did, because we did 7 programs in one day, didn't we? We recorded 7 programs, which meant that anything could happen before the next recording. So it was one of the most bizarre things to do, wasn't it?
Well, I can remember we used to say things like, how do you face something like this? I suppose all you can do is to remember that we will get through.
I know.
And the time will come when all will be well. I was very fluent when I was talking nonsense. I still am, really.
I think the point was that what we didn't want was to be laughing our heads off over some trivial thing
no, exactly,
on a day when something terrible had happened.
That's
so
right.
Was that truth or wasn't it truth?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if we'd said, morning everybody, or evening everybody, what a lovely day it's been, and there'd been some massive disaster.
Yeah.
Anyway, So anyway, hello from Sunday, and as you listen, it's Friday.
Except that it's actually Monday today.
Monday today.
But never mind. Yeah. It's been another week of tumbling institutions, hasn't it? Really?
Things feel shaky enough as they are, and this week, one of the unshakable institutions, or perhaps we see it in that way, the BBC. There's been all sorts of problems, and of course that's been part of our lives, all our lives, the BBC.
Either the radio or television, yes.
And they have built up a trust in people, I suppose, that they do their best to get things right.
I think we believed in them. I mean, I was thinking the other day, Adrian, you were talking about how much you believed in the programmes you watched when you were small.
Oh, I believed everything. I used to watch Champion the Wonder Horse. Now, some people will remember Champion the Wonder Horse. And there was a song which had the line in it, the time will come when everyone will know the name of Champion the Wonder Horse. Now, I know that probably 80% of the people listening have never heard of Champion the Wonder Horse, but I thought he was going to be really, really famous as time went by, and everyone would know who he was, but they don't. But no, I believed lots of things when I was little.
Yeah.
I did.
And we're realising, aren't we? You know, last week, I think it was only last week, we were referring to that line about look after widows and orphans and stay clean.
The verse from James.
And how relevant that is this week. Extraordinary, really. I mean, the truth is that the BBC hasn't quite told the truth. It's turned a blind eye, in this case, to someone at a centre of a scandal who's been given the benefit of the doubt. And you know, I actually looked up what that meant, because I thought, we use these terms all the time, don't we? I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. You know, you're late for work and you say that, or you go to school and you say the dog's eaten your homework, and you're either given the benefit of the doubt or not. And it means that you look at the person and you think, well, overall, I trust you. So even though I think you might be lying this time, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt.
I'm sure I like things like that. I know when people anyone who starts a sentence with an apology is probably going to tell you off. Like people say, I'm sorry, but I just don't agree with you. Or forgive me for saying this, but don't you think? Or one of the worst is let me just look at what you've just said, if you don't mind. Of course, I mean it's all part of making
but it is
a
true,
forceful
isn't
point.
it, that giving the benefit of the doubt has caused some pretty serious problems, not just for the BBC this week, but
well, we're all guilty in either tiny ways or big ways, and I mean the church is not guiltless in this respect at all. No. I mean, we know of all sorts of things, I suppose, because of what we do and how much we travel. We get to hear all kinds of stuff, and we know from the news that some things get covered up, and I don't know. We're talking about people. And sometimes people get lifted up beyond a place where they should be, and when they fall, it's an almighty crash when they go.
And maybe that applies to institutions as well. You know, something gets lifted into a place that's unimpeachable, if you like, and they're going to fail. And that's why, of course, it was so important. However, maybe out of failure, the very early church was full of people, especially the disciples, who knew how far they could fail. So maybe they were really on it. I mean, the very first bit of trouble with the Greek widows.
That was the Greek widows, wasn't it? Yeah.
Was immediately taken incredibly seriously, wasn't it? In order that everything was above board, everything was clear and clean. I mean, actually, the Holy Spirit was pretty wild.
You just say what that was about, because it looks almost trivial when you first say it, doesn't it? What they were actually talking about who served at meals, weren't they?
Yeah, well, they were talking about they were talking about which order they were served in.
Oh, that's right.
And the Greek widows reckoned that they were getting a pretty rough deal.
That's right, yeah.
But it was so important. And in a way, that's the way it has to be, doesn't it?
They chose some very important people to take on that task.
Yeah, they did. They took it seriously.
They did take it seriously.
They did. Yeah. It's not always easy, is it, to confess to something small. I'm just thinking of a situation in our house, Adrian Plass, only a week ago. I think you'd like to tell everybody about it, wouldn't you?
Well, I suppose I would. I mean, I was trying to flood the dishwasher, and in the course of trying to deflood the dishwasher, I pushed some crucial little piece of plastic through the hole it was in, and I didn't know if it was important. I didn't think it was important, and the dishwasher still didn't wash. So we called someone.
It didn't work, did it? The dishwasher,
work,
no.
And he came, and he said, "Oh, looks as if this little, I can't remember what he called it, is missing." And everything in me wanted to say, really? Gosh.
What he actually said to you, if you remember, is this is the first time I've ever come across this little plug.
And I was tempted
being in the bottom of the dishwasher.
I was tempted to just say, oh, wow, gosh,
it's amazing.
But in the end, I had to say, well, actually, I think that could have been me.
Yeah. I think you took a little preamble.
Trying to clear I was trying to clear the thing. But yeah, so in the end, I just about hung on by my fingertips to verity. But I mean, it's tiny things you can get really caught out in. Yeah.
Right. And there are times, aren't there, when we fudge things. So many times. But I mean, we're supposed to be witnesses to the gospel. We're supposed to tell people all the time about our faith. And I can think of so many times when I've thought this probably isn't the right time, and let something just fudge, and in a way given myself the benefit of the doubt, sort of thought, well, I'm not too bad a person, and actually allowed a moment where maybe I should have done something and didn't do it.
What were you thinking about?
I was thinking, Adrian, of all the times when you don't face someone with things. I mean, we know lots of people, don't we, who would never question where they're going to go when they die, for example, even throughout this pandemic. Never given it a thought, really. It's
been a difficult thing for me, I think, all my Christian life, is the whole thing about passing on the faith. I mean, as it happens, the work we do produces, and we're very fortunate in this, people come back to faith. not because we preach at them particularly, but because of usually of vulnerability. But there have been times when I know I have not told people the fundaments of what I believe, because I don't much like the sound of it coming out of my mouth. And it came to a head, didn't it, when we were watching morning TV once, and they were talking about how many children were killed on the roads, and they talked about improving driving training and about the roads being better and parents looking after children. But they never talked about what's happened to all these children. And it was then I wrote something which is called Too Much Dying, and it tried to express that. So we'll read it to you. Too much dying. Too much dying, don't you think?
Too much screeching metal.
Sudden impact.
Unexpected endings.
Too much mindless murder.
Too many killer dogs.
Too many children suffocating in abandoned freezers.
Too many sad, sad rooms.
Too many tears.
Too many broken hearts.
Too much turning finally away.
Too much agony of body, mind, memory.
Too much grief melting lives like wax at gravesites.
Too many guns.
Too much wild, wild callousness and cruelty.
Too little imagination.
But we can do something, can't we?
Oh, yes, we can support political change.
We can prohibit the sale of arms.
We can send peacekeeping forces.
We can deal with social conditions that cause crime.
We can put muzzles on dogs.
We could put out more publicity about freezers.
We can make it harder to pass the driving test.
We could find new ways to slow people down.
We can teach kids to be as scared of roads as they are of strangers.
I think we could get something going on breakfast TV.
We can do something, can't we?
Yes, but let's not tell people about Jesus.
No, let's not make it clear that he hates final endings more than we do.
Let's not pass on the fact that he's overcome this terrible death we dread.
Let's not push it down anyone's throat.
No, even if it's a way for them to breathe.
I mean, let's not offend anybody, eh? By mentioning the cross.
Or the scream that ripped itself from him when the thing was finished.
Let's not pass on the news that he came back from the dead and lived.
Oh, don't tell them that they can do the same.
Don't let anyone understand that this tiny corner of eternity will pass.
Let's not use words like salvation,
redemption,
heaven,
hell.
Fire and brimstone, they're just symbols, aren't they?
I mean, only fanatics would want people to avoid whatever Jesus died to save us from.
Look, let's assure everybody that all religions are beams of light.
Shining from different facets of the same crystal.
For goodness sake, let's just keep both feet on the ground.
Yeah, let's be accommodating.
Let's be focused.
But liberal.
Let's compromise.
Let's keep the peace.
Let's hope, for all our sakes, that when the final reckoning is made,
we got it right.
There's too much dying, don't you think?
Oh, even reading that, Adrian, just brings into me so many times when I know that I have failed. I know, but I also know over the years that it's really important that we look at these things and almost always let them go, because it's very easy to play the blame game with ourselves, isn't it? And there's so many blame games going on at the moment. And I mean, even with the pandemic, let's be honest, it's going to get more and more, maybe more and more important, but also more and more fiery. And people would be looking for a person to blame, a person to be the one. And I mean, if we take the pandemic, never mind about the BBC for the moment, because I'm sure actually there are many factors playing even in what happened there. But in the pandemic, there are so many factors playing a part, aren't there? And to sort of single out, I don't know, what do you think?
I don't know, it's all a bit too much for me. I do know that in my life I've done things that I much regret, and that I mean, there are two things about that. One is that you're right. You can't live on that all the time. You can't keep it going in your head. The other is to face it and accept it. I mean, I think I've mentioned before being asked by somebody to go and see their husband who was dying, and I didn't go because I didn't want to. This is a few years ago now, and afterwards I felt so bad, and I can't change that. I can't make it. And he was very militant before that, and he wanted to hear, and I didn't go. And I'm
Did it take you a long time to forgive yourself for that? I mean,
I don't think I ever actually forgave myself. I think I would rather put it that I felt forgiven.
Yeah.
And part of the responsibility, if you want to be forgiven, is to then live with it. You can't be forgiven 89 times. It lingers.
No, I mean, we're told, aren't we, that if you say things to God, he'll take it like a stone and throw it into a deep, deep pond. The danger is then we go plunging back in again in our wellies, grab it back and say, no, this is mine. I haven't finished feeling
Bridget,
guilty
they
about
get
that.
washed up on the shore sometimes.
There is
no doubt about that.
Now.
Well, they come back, and a lot of people listening will know exactly what I'm talking about. That things come back.
Well, that's what
you
I'm
have
saying.
To look at them and say,
yeah.
No,
that's what I'm saying.
Happens.
You go in and get it quite often because you feel it's part of you, and you need to feel guilty still. So that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I'd like to know what people think about that, but it's complicated.
So I mean, there are some positives, aren't there, in giving people the benefit of the doubt. And I mean, I was thinking of our justice system, where you're innocent until proved guilty. I mean, that's one example, isn't it? That you first of all, you don't make an immediate judgment on the basis of how somebody looks or even what's in the papers about them, because you're going to listen anew to the situation and judge it anew. And maybe they're guilty, and maybe the BBC, maybe people involved with this pandemic will be found, to be, in inverted commas, guilty.
Yeah.
But the system is that you start by giving people the benefit of the doubt. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the theory, and it will always be a theory because people are people. But yes, you I've not been on done jury service, but obviously you have to say, I'm going to, by an act of the will, try to clear my mind and start from the beginning. So yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's not hard, is it? I mean, we talk about keeping things clean, but we are bombarded by views coming through social media, coming even through the news. We're bombarded by people's views on what is the truth, and it's quite hard sometimes, really.
It's hard with God too, for Christians, I think, believers. I mean, I'm talking about Christians because I am one. Other people, other faiths may know this too. But in normal relationships, you need trust and forgiveness, don't you? I mean, so you trust someone, and if they go wrong, hopefully you're able to forgive them, and you start again. It could be small things, could be big things. With God, because He's so blinking perfect, you don't have the facility for forgiveness if things go wrong and you feel your life has fallen apart and all that. And during the pandemic, a lot of people have felt that about God, and there's a part of them, and someone wrote me a wonderful poem which we read once, but I can't read, I haven't got time now, but feel like saying, why did you let me down? Why did you not do the one thing that would have made my life okay? And some people have said, and I've sometimes said, go through the act of forgiving God. Go through that process and let Him take it and start again. I don't know the rights and wrongs of that, but I do know that's one of the things that complicates that particular relationship.
Yeah, I think if I'm trying to think that through, Adrian, what you just said, I mean, I think very often what I have to do, last week we were talking about the bucket on Gracie's head and the fact that everything in her little puppy mind is, why can't you, if you love me, take this bucket off my head? And in a way, that's what we do with God. We say, can you please, you are perfectly capable of doing this, so what does it mean that you don't? But in a way, what you then do is you look at the whole of God. Sometimes I can only get back by looking at aspects of creation, to be honest, because I know that God keeps our world turning on its axis. And so whatever I am feeling on that moment, on that day, I come back to these things sometimes, or I come back to this I know, that Christ was born of Mary. And this I know, and in a way I hold on to that. But is that the same thing? I'm not sure.
I don't think that's what I hold on to anymore. I mean, I do. The person of Jesus, as you know, I've become the man has become more and more important to me. Yeah. But I do feel a fondness for God, and I do feel a trust that something that it's too big and too difficult for me to pursue on normal human terms. What I would say, though, to people who feel bashed and hurt and don't understand, feel it. Don't shove it away, because it's important. It's very bad mental health to stuff it away. And I don't think God has ever minded anyone coming to him like one of our kids did when he was small, sitting on my lap, banging my chest with his tiny fists and saying, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you, and then crying, and then eventually falling asleep. And that's the care that I think we're looking for, is that someone who says, I will listen to you, I will hear you, I will understand you, I can't change it, but I will cuddle you in some way. That's sort of where I am with it, I think.
Well.
Deep stuff.
Yeah.
Deep stuff.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you know how Adrian gets on, and how I get on. The dog is getting her bucket off her head today, so that is either a moment for rejoicing, but it also means 2 more weeks of cage imprisonment for her. So that could be quite an interesting challenge. We didn't think we'd get through the bucket phase. So anyway, you will meet us on Friday. You're meeting us now. It's Friday now. It's Monday here, but it'll be Monday then. Friday then. And another institution crumbles the days of the week.
And we'll see you the week after that. So
we will.
Thank you for joining us again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.